So, Lucas, thank you so much for joining me with Tickets for Tay. This is our first one. You are my first guest, so it's a pleasure to have you. Obviously, everyone in the industry and the collectors know you, so do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more and give them an insight into who you are?
Hey Taylor, thanks for inviting me. My name is Lucas. I live in Belgium. I've been collecting for like 15 or 16 years. At the start, I only kept the traditional tickets, but right now, yeah, I'm jumping on the bandwagon with all the other collectors. Yeah, trying to get the debuts and the special World Cup tickets.
Amazing. And what was it that actually got you into collecting in the first place? Because you said 15 years ago. I presume it wasn't very well documented or collected at all compared to other things like sports cards.
I have to say, in Belgium, we already had quite a lot of collectors. Most of them still collect. Some of them did quit already because tickets have been going up in prices, and they didn't like it at all, and they didn't want to spend that much money on them. But when I started, yeah, you had a lot of yeah, old school traditional ticket collectors, and they mainly collected their local club or their favorite club, and they tried to get all their European games, for example, or all the cup finals they played. Some even collected every league game, um, or they
Wow.
collect their favorite nation or the nation they're born in, or the full sets of World Cups. So yeah, there were already quite of like 50 tickets. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with it. Found some guy on the internet collecting them, selling them. That's how I started collecting them.
Very interesting. Obviously, you're more well versed than me, especially with historic tickets. So, how far has the ticket collecting industry really gone? When did people first begin to collect these? Obviously, you say 15 years. I don't presume it was much further back than that, really, with regards to the first community of collectors.
Yeah, I think back then, if we go way, way back, I think we can go like 40 years back. When I
Wow.
had to talk with some older collectors. That's why some tickets have the address stamps on the back. That was the way to communicate with each other, to send our peoples your name, to give them your address, just to make sure they got to know you. So it's why some tickets have stamps on the back with people's name, and how you could contact them. Some even have phone numbers on them. So yeah, that was like 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
When I started, it was way easier. I think we already had Facebook,
Yeah.
so yeah, you could just create a group and yeah, made it a lot easier.
And what were the prices like back then? Because obviously, where they are now and in the future, when people look back at this, they'll understand kind of what they're worth now. How much were they worth back then? With regards to, I'll give an example, like a World Cup final ticket or potentially a debut ticket.
Back then, but even if I go back to like 6 or 7 years ago, for example, or one of the examples I prepared is the World Cup 2006 final.
Yeah,
Um, Nowadays, it's known as the Zidane headbutt red card, but back then,
yeah.
like 6 years ago, it was only a 25 euro ticket. You could barely sell it for like 30 euros. It was difficult to get
Well,
rid of it. While nowadays they go for 100, 150 euros.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking to
Um,
pick up one for that price, and it's been difficult. I mean, I got stung with a fake ticket. Luckily, I was able to pick it up. But yeah, it is a great ticket and far more renowned as Zidane's ticket than the World Cup final ticket.
yeah.
Very interesting insight. So I also have some questions noted down here. So I want to ask you some of these. I'm going to start off with what is your best ever ticket find? So what ticket have you found that is either very rare or worth a lot more than you'd anticipated?
It was actually when I only just started doing the debuts, like 2 years
Hmm.
ago, I think. I got lucky. Some guy was selling a bunch of tickets. I think it was like 100 tickets or 300 tickets for 20 euros. And I asked him to make it 700 tickets or something like that for about 60 euros. but I asked him to add a bit of Madrid and Barcelona tickets, and he added the
I can see where
real.
this might be going.
Yeah, he added the Lionel Messi first ever professional goal. He didn't even know what it was, but it was in the package I received. It was actually also the only valuable ticket in there. I was hoping for some more debuts, but I could just throw them all away except that one.
So early days, that was sort of your venture. Just buy a bundle and then hope that you can pick and flicker through them and find something of value.
Yeah, that's what I've always been doing actually. But when the debut started, yeah, I could only just hope something decent was in there. People didn't really know it. If you compare it to today, if you find or if somebody finds a ticket from a game he visited, for example, if he by accident visited the Lionel Messi World Cup game, he just sort of searches on the internet Argentina Serbia 2006 World Cup ticket. And the
Yeah,
first thing showing up is a €250 ticket, including Lionel Messi World Cup debut. While back in the days, you could just find that ticket for 15 or €20. And back in the days, it's
yeah,
like
incredible.
4 years ago.
And have you, I mean, on that topic, have you had more luck finding snipes on eBay or buying bundles on rather than in terms of most money you've made, just in terms of the best pickups you've got? Have they been through bundles or snipes?
Just from buying big collections. Sometimes you're
Okay.
just lucky. Yeah, sometimes it's not even listed what they have. I just try to be lucky. Yeah, sometimes you just find some really, really gold. But for now, it's been decent, but not super special. A while ago, I'd been lucky to find the Zidane rookie debut. I wasn't sure PSA would grade it, so I sold it. Yeah, I got a good price and beautiful tickets in exchange for it. So I was happy. I didn't expect PSA to grade it, but they did.
Yeah,
So
I was surprised to see that you didn't actually grade that one because when I saw the scans on PSA on the Discord channel, I was surprised, but that's a crazy pickup. Incredible. Which ticket netted you the biggest profitable return in terms of the price you paid compared to the price you ended up selling it for?
that must have been the World Cup debut, like 2 years ago when it was still super exciting and very hot. I paid about €2,000 for it, and it sold for about 15,000. So yeah, that's one of the better ones. When I have to think about last year, for example, it must have been the Jude Bellingham rookie debut I got, but I also paid like €350 for it. It was a full, graded a 7, and I sold it for about €1,800. So that's about 5 to 6 times what I paid.
Yeah,
Still happy with that.
incredible. And what was the story behind that? Was that just an eBay pickup?
Yeah, it was
Because
just
it's
one on
obviously still
eBay.
quite an expensive
I
price.
even won it by bidding on it. So it's not that I had it in a cheap lot or something. No, it was €350. And I was actually expecting to never get rid of it again because it was quite pricey. But yeah, new guys coming into the market, and it's not that easy to find a full, uh, let alone it be a 7. So yeah, it was quite a beautiful ticket as well.
I believe that is the highest graded to this day still, right?
I think it is. I think
Yeah, I believe
especially
so.
for a full, I still think it's the highest graded. Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, on the topic of you thought you'd never sell that, what are three tickets you would never sell?
Um, yeah, for me, everything is always for sale. It just everything just had a price.
For the right price.
But yeah, the Messi first goal is something very special for me because it will always keep its value, always. Um, yeah, and the one I have here behind me, it's Formula One ticket in which Max Verstappen he did beat Hamilton on in Abu Dhabi for his first World Championship, and it's
Wow.
signed by Max. So it's one of my favorite ones. I bought it framed, So for now, I'm just keeping it like this. I'm waiting until PSA goes slabbing these things with
Yeah.
the lanyard including it, because I don't really like to take it off.
And in number three, what do we have?
Maybe the Cruyff debut for Netherlands. It's
Yeah.
not the hardest one to find, but still, I didn't see any showing up in the last few months. So I know a lot of people are aware of it.
Does the Zidane debut that you just graded back, does that not make it on the top three?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I know recently you bought 15,000 tickets. Tell us the story about that, how you managed to find that purchase, any gems you might have found so far, and kind of give us an insight of what it takes to find such a big bundle and what it kind of consists of.
I've been contacted a few months ago by a collector, and he told me he wanted to stop his collection. I didn't have the money to buy them all back then, and some other guy managed to get quite a lot of them right in front of my nose. He bought mainly the Belgian European Cup tickets. So yeah, so I had to hurry, and I grabbed all the other stuff. It included a few full World Cup sets like 98, 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018. A few full sets of the European Championships. It included a lot of older tickets from the Belgian national team. Um, about 200 European Cup finals, including a lot of Champions League finals. So yeah, after all, it was really worth it. But still, yeah, it's a little risk every time. And right now, I'm on the brink of grabbing another big collection. I might see the guy
Let me
next
ask
week.
you some questions then. On that note of the risk that you just mentioned, what sort of information are you getting about the tickets before you buy them? Is it just quantity, or are you aware of the sort of events that are going on as well?
Some people just send me a list, so yeah, I know what's in there. I can make some calculations in advance, but still, um, I can put a value on anything. I can value some stuff at like 200 euros, 300 euros, 500 euros, but I still have to find a buyer for it. Um, that. I think that's the most difficult part. Um, yeah, I like those full sets. I don't like to split them up. I know they have quite some value. The next collection will have some full sets as well. Um, but I'd like to sell them as a full set because it's so difficult to get a full set. Um, and yeah,
Would it not be more profitable to potentially break it up, grade the World Cup debuts and the final? Would that not be more profitable?
yeah, maybe in the long run, yes, probably. But I know that from these full sets, like 80% of tickets, even 90% of those tickets, yeah, they don't sell. They're not
Yeah,
wanted, they're too easy to find. So people won't buy them from eBay. It's why I try to sell the full sets. But yeah, they're quite difficult to sell as well because if you're going to sell a full set, you'll also try to get at least 1,500 euros. It's like 60 tickets, about 25 euros each, including the big World Cup debuts. So I think that's quite a beautiful average at only 25 euros each.
very interesting. Now, there might be some new listeners or new collectors listening today. Is there any, maybe give me three mistakes that you've made in the industry that others can learn from you? Maybe three mistakes that you've made that you can help other people not make again in the future.
Yeah, it makes it more difficult. So I have a feeling like those days are a little bit gone. The very cheap stuff is gone quickly. Many more eyes watching them on eBay. So yeah, um, yeah, I would say research is very important. Patience, for third, I would say, yeah, mistake. Yeah, you're never in a hurry. I mean, you don't have to get everything tomorrow or something. We have plenty of time. Take your time. and tickets will show up. Some people are like in such a big rush. They would like to have everything next week. They spend
Me
thousands of
included.
euros. Just take your time. Everything will show up in the end. One will be more difficult than the other one, but I'm sure in the end it will all work out.
And that's great advice. Great advice to anyone listening. I mean, when I joined the hobby, that was probably the first thing I did. I researched everything that I wanted, made a list, and then set out to get that as quickly as possible, which often means you end up overpaying. Um, and yeah, you rush into things that you might not have wanted to pay as much for and stuff like that. And then over time, you realize that you've seen it 100 times over. But again, on the other side of that is the fact that you might have never seen something since the beginning and wish you bought it. So, like you say, I think that links back into research, understanding how many sales there have been in the past. Maybe ask your friend or put something in a group and ask how rare something is, and everyone's willing to help. But yeah, that was definitely probably my biggest mistake. Day one, I was like, right, I want this, and that you just raised. When you list things on eBay, how have you noticed a trend in views and watchers? Potentially listing something now to potentially 5 years ago. How has that changed?
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been listing some items this afternoon, and yeah, I feel like since the debut of the rookies and the start of this all, it has all slowed a bit down. At the start, it was way easier to sell these things. Right now, people are more patient. I feel like they tend to wait a bit longer to see if there's anything else showing up on the market. At the start, everything was selling. It was crazy. Everything I would list on eBay, it sold. Any price you almost want, it sold. But right now, everything is yeah feels like a bit more slow. I still have yeah good amount of sales every month. But yeah, not everything is graded. I mean, my personal feeling is like the graded stuff is yeah, selling a bit slower because people love
Mm-hmm.
to buy them raw, and they love the lottery from PSA grading. You never know what you're gonna get until you
Yeah.
get your grades from PSA, and it feels like people love the lottery uh, or the fun it brings.
Well, the only thing I can compare it to is it's almost like a pack opening, isn't it? You don't know what it's going to grade, and it's an excitement. And especially when you find something on eBay, especially if it's a single, there's no real excitement behind that. You know what you're getting. It comes straight through the front door, and it's in a binder or in a sleeve or whatever. Whereas, I guess if you buy a bundle, there's a sense of excitement, and if you get something graded, again, there's that excitement. But yeah, I definitely would agree with you on that. That the demand since then has slowed down. It's far more difficult to sell
Yeah,
things. I wonder, where do you think that liquidity was coming from? Was it the same sort of community that it is now, or was it external? Was it from other people?
no, I had a feeling like some card guys coming over. Uh, they had sold some decent money, or they made some decent money from cards. Um, Maybe some Pokemon guys, I don't know. But yeah, many of the guys who bought from tickets from me like 2 years ago, they still buy from me. So it's not like it's completely finished, not at all. But you just feel like they take their time. That's what I said before. At the start, they just grabbed anything they could, and yeah, without researching anything, and they just bought everything they could find on eBay. Um, yeah, I feel like that's changed a bit. We have a huge Discord, including about 300 members, 200 members, I don't know.
Yeah,
People can find a lot of information in it. So yeah, it seems like they're taking a bit more their time. And people understand that 90% of tickets are do show up. They're not. I mean, the average games like Wayne Rooney debut played in front of 30,000, 35,000 people. We know that a lot of them do have a season ticket, but it's not that there are only like 10 tickets printed. So there's quite a bunch of tickets available. Yeah, not available, but they can come on the market. Um, so it seems like people are slowing down and buying a little bit, which I completely understand. It's also normal. I hope we can go back to the prices from 2021. because those sales were amazing. Maradona debut signed for an amazing price. I think it was 35,000,
33,700, I
33.
believe.
But if there's one ticket uh, which deserves that price, it must be that one because I don't think the pop report has three of them yet. Maybe I don't think it hits five, for example. So it's
I think it is about three, with one of them being altered as
yeah,
well.
it's incredibly hard to find.
I
So
think it was trimmed.
yeah, it's like the Pele. If you'd find a Pele international debut, I would be surprised if that will only go 10,000 euros, for example. Those tickets, they do deserve those primes.
Maybe it's a good opportunity to play a game and we can look back at this video in maybe 3 years' time. But in 3 years' time, where do you see something like Lionel Messi's pro debut sitting at in terms of total pop? We can play this game for some others as well, other players.
Um,
Because obviously it's at four now. Where do you see it sitting in 3 years' time?
Probably a 10 of maybe 15 if we go over like if we add another 3 years, because I think in 2 or 3 years time we are now at 4, 5. So yeah, I think it can hit 10, maybe 15, but not even sure about that. If you compare it to the FC Porto one, the Espanyol one will always be very difficult to find. Uh, the Porto one was the opening of the Dragao Stadium. Many people, yeah, Portuguese guys, they love their club. They love the new stadium. They got even yeah, a little booklet with it, including a tile and that kind of stuff. So many of them kept their tickets. But Espanyol, yeah, it was just a league game. It could have been at Alicante or at Murcia or I don't know any other club in Spain. So yeah, that one will be difficult to find, and I think it played in Espanyol. If it was in the Barcelona and Camp Nou, it would be way more easy to find because you still have the
Absolutely.
tourists. But no, in Espanyol, it will always remain very difficult to find.
Very interesting. What about something like Cristiano Ronaldo's debut at Sporting? I think it sits at about 40 now across full and stubs. Where do you see that being in 3 years' time?
Yeah, it will probably be at 50, maybe 60, 70. It won't go up until I don't see it hitting 100 any day. It's at 40 now because it's a UEFA Cup game, which is way more collected than those Spanish league games. As I said, Belgian collectors do keep the European Cup games from their favorite clubs, just like Portuguese collectors who collect their clubs' European Cups or European Cup games. So yeah, they will be available. They will remain available, but they won't be there. They won't be out there anyway. Near the amount of tickets, yeah, of the FC Porto one.
Okay, what about something like Pele's World Cup debut? I think it sits at around 30 now, with obviously most of them being PSA 1
How
and
many
2.
are there?
Where do you see that being in 3 years' time?
How many have been graded?
I think there's around 40, I believe.
I would expect it way higher because I've seen them everywhere. Back in the days, you could grab them for like 70 euros, 80 euros. Back in the days, it's like only 6 years ago, as I said. I think, yeah, the popularity of the ticket will go up. Will probably go over 100 because it's a World Cup game. Those tickets are way more kept at people's houses. So, yeah,
I think a lot of people are sitting on them now with them raw and ungraded because PSA's grading fee is like $300 for a ticket like that. So for most people, they either keep it raw or don't grade it. So unless that price comes down or there's an offer or something, I don't see the population moving very much. But the global population outside of graded tickets is definitely very high. I've seen lots raw. I know you have one yourself, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well, and see no need to grade it at the moment.
yes, I have it there. Always,
There we
I'm
go.
always keeping that close because you never know PSA is doing anything special. um, so I can just pack pack it and send it out as quick as possible. Um, but yeah, right now
Did you have that at the peak? Because you mentioned you sold your other one. Why did you not sell this one?
I didn't have it at the peak. I bought it like 6 months ago for only 300 euros, I
Oh, okay.
think. So I can look that one up.
Wow.
But I didn't pay a lot for it. At first, I wouldn't even want to buy it anymore because so many of them are showing up, and I was afraid putting money in it. But I bought it 10th of April, 2023, and I paid 320 euros for it on eBay. So a guy was listing it,
Wow.
and I asked him for a buy now, and he changed it.
Very lucky. I know actually with regards to that, there was the Bobby Charlton debut for England, and someone listed it at an auction, and you've obviously messaged them for a deal, and I think you bought it down to £20 buy it now. And I came in, I've seen it, I've refreshed it, and I've seen it at £20, and I picked it up and bought it immediately. Why didn't you? Why didn't you grab it so quickly?
He didn't add international shipping,
There we
so
go.
it was only UK shipping, I think. I asked a friend of mine, another collector, Stuart, to buy it for me, but yeah, he didn't reply in time, and yeah,
There it is. It's actually in fantastic condition. There is a bit of a scuff at the top, but for the most part, it looks stunning. It's very clean, sharp edges. Not that this is helping your suffering anymore, but at least someone good's got
yeah, I missed out on that one.
it.
Stuart replied too late, but it's not his mistake. I'm already very happy with the amount of tickets he managed to grab from me because when I buy them, I have to pay a lot of taxes on it. Um, Shipping is often 12, 13 pounds. Yeah, so that makes a huge difference at the end of the year.
Yeah, that was a funny story. That was a funny one, and it wasn't until I posted it on the Discord that you realised that it was me who stole it.
Yeah, I never feel bad about losing tickets because yeah, they will show up maybe the next day. That's why I'm also always careful for buying big and expensive tickets because some people see tickets sell for like yeah, I think best example is the Steven Gerrard debut from a few months ago, like 2 months ago, one sold I think for 120, £150. Yeah, and the following days, I think like four, five, or six showed up just because, yeah, in the past those tickets sold for £4 and £5. And when people see them go for 120, £150, they're not waiting. They won't wait to sell these. So, yeah, when one goes for that price, and many others, I'm sure about that, will follow always.
Yeah, and it's interesting that in the ticket industry, maybe not so much sports cards, but if someone has one ticket, they might even have two, three, or four if they've went with a group of friends or family and were kept. That isn't often the case with sports cards, but I mean, I've had it several times, even with my personal collection. I have Declan Rice's England debut because I went and watched the game myself, and now I've got four of these tickets in perfect condition. So they do show up in pairs, and it's quite cool to keep the serial number together
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, it is.
Or the
You
C
won't see that
number.
in sport cars, of course, but yeah, I feel different about that because yeah, some of them are printed 10,000 times, 100,000 times, 100,000 times, all in mint condition. While for tickets, it's so much more difficult to get them in beautiful condition. People just put them in their pockets, throw them away. Some tickets looks like they have lived through World War just because of people being nervous during the game. So yeah, it's why I prefer tickets over
Yeah,
cars. I don't like the idea of yeah some company printing it and just yeah printing. They can do 1 million cards. They can go for 2 million cards. You never know because I've seen some stories on Twitter already with some people having a very special card, one from one. and five others replying on it. They have the same one from one. So yeah, what's one from one?
It's nuts. And I think that's why tickets in today's day and age is pretty interesting because yes, there might be potentially 40,000 people in a stadium, but the supply is probably 90% e-tickets now. And then the physical tickets might even be season tickets and things like that. So the supply is so scarce that it just keeps the hobby kind of the supply of the hobby pretty low, which is unconventional for sports cars, whereas now they're more valuable. The printing machines just run and run and run, and the supply of sports cars is much higher. For tickets, it's actually the reverse, which we've never seen before, and really many other collectibles. So that's very interesting to see. So e-tickets, I know for a lot of people, it's kind of scared them off, but in terms of a scarcity perspective, it's actually a very good and positive sign. Because imagine there was, I mean, for a lot of the England games, there's thousands that have probably been kept, but realistically, for other games, they're very rare, such as the Harry Kane one that you've got for his record-breaking goal. I know that's a very rare one to find, and probably isn't very many. Again, we give the example of Lionel Messi's first start in the MLS. The supply of that is next to nothing. I think there was probably only around 100 VIPs at that event, of which most of them were VIPs, so it's probably gone straight in the bin. So if you were able to grab one of them, the supply is very low. I know the first official MLS debut was against Red Bulls, I believe, and that wasn't even ticketed, so that was only e-ticket. So it is very interesting, and the future of ticket collecting is going to be an interesting journey. Where do you see it being?
Yeah, I think it will become like the Formula One tickets, mainly VIP tickets, or VIP lanyards with cards, something like that. Journalists will always have their accreditation too. But even those things are getting more and more like QR codes. So yeah, it will be getting more and more difficult. But I'm sure they will always be out there. I never believe in fully e-ticketed games. I'm sure that there's always something, some accreditations, VIP cards, and some people try the trick from the broken phone and get a printed ticket. So yeah, I think there will always be tickets as well.
Yeah, well, there's the example of the Saka and Declan Rice Champions League debut, which I sold to you. That was, I mean, Arsenal released that it's going to be 100% e-ticket for the full season, and then the machines broke and they printed probably around 10 of those tickets. So they are very rare, and it makes it more of a hunt and a find. And it might just mean that you have to be there in person to pick up these gems, but they are out there. And even if they say online that they don't exist, there is a chance. So I think that's an interesting piece of hope for people collecting in today's day and age, and for new people in the hobby that there is hope. And I think, especially in the American, if you look at boogers, a lot of people are putting pressure on the clubs to still manufacture tickets. A lot of them are now charging maybe like $5 or $10 for tickets. So it is keeping the hobby alive. And it's interesting. I think that's a really good approach, potentially charging tickets. But in the UK and maybe in Belgium, there just needs to be a sense of pressure on the clubs to why they should do it, or a rationale for them to do it. Because at the moment, there's really no benefit for physical tickets. It takes time printing them, you have to ship them, there's the opportunity for people to fake them, so there is no benefit. But if we can come in as a community and kind of present to them why they should, then maybe the hobby can stay alive in that way. But there's also AC Memento coming along. You've heard
No,
of them?
yeah, I read something they created an app or something, but I didn't have the
Yeah,
time yet.
so they actually ran the auction for the six Lionel Messi shirts that sold for like $7.6 million. And AC Memento is basically an app where I think you can have your e-ticket on there, and you can get the result of the game. You can add tickets to your collection. You can even submit your own photos, and it's kind of a digital wallet for collecting tickets, which is pretty cool. But again, for me, I love the tangible ticket. I love the sense of scarcity. I love the fact that I have it and no one else has it. So it'll be interesting to see how that performs. I think if they can mitigate scarcity and make it somewhat rare and collectible and fun, then they could do well. But I don't see with a supply of 60,000 how that could be any any interest to
No,
anyone
I
really.
don't believe in those things actually. I think UEFA or FIFA are trying something too with an app where you could add special moments or something. But yeah, those paper tickets, they will remain special all the time. And yeah, it's like saving a QR code from a game on your phone or printing one. It's not the same as having such a beautiful ticket. Yeah, many people
Exactly.
also look at this like, yeah, I didn't visit the game, so I don't know why I would ever buy it. But yeah, it's like people collecting football players' boots and shirts. Yeah, they also didn't wear at the game, or they didn't even play in it.
Good
But
point.
still, people collect it. Same with cards or Pokemon cards. People collecting Pokemon cards doesn't mean you're a Pokemon trainer. I mean, yeah, you can just collect it and then and love the look of a beautiful ticket. Um, yeah, it should be. Yeah, for now it's still undervalued. I think some look amazing. Um, Sometimes it's a bit of shame if you see the work. There's yeah, some are looking terrible. I really think it's still very undervalued, the ticket collecting, and I hope many more people will come into the market.
I think you're right. I think it is still an attractive market for people to enter. I think some of the prices are very cheap. I think even if they don't change in price, I think that there are, like you say, there's bargains to be found for £2, £3. So there is money to be made in that way, and it is fun. I mean, I personally, I've only been collecting other people's tickets for 3 years, so for me, I've had great fun with it. But yeah, I think the future is bright. I think people will continue to collect. I think merging the lines between sports cards and the moments from those cards and tickets together will be very interesting to see. I mean, I personally have some sports cards which I love kind of cross comparing with the ticket. So I see that as a potential market for it to venture into. And then I also think that actual athletes could eventually one day collect them as well, because for them, these moments are even more special. They might have played the game and have nothing to show for it. So the tickets for them might be very special. So that's something interesting. Whereas I don't really see a sports card being potentially that interesting, whereas a ticket to their first game might be far more. So again, another avenue for tickets to
Have you
potentially
spoken
venture into.
to
On that final note,
Have you spoken
sorry.
because I know you're a good friend of Declan Rice. Have you spoken to him about those tickets? Does he
Uh
love it?
huh. So that's a great question. I remember back in 2020, and the sports card industry was just starting to pick up. And I remember picking up the phone and calling him and saying, "There's a Pele debut rookie card you have to buy," because I didn't have the money at the time. I think it was around, how much was it? It might have been like £30,000 or something. It was obviously expensive and something I would never consider, but I knew he would potentially be interested. And then years later, it sold for however much, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So potentially he should have listened to me on that one, and maybe I'd be right again with tickets. We don't know, but not really something I've never spoke to him about. But in due time, it will come up, I'm sure, and we'll see if there's a sense of interest there. I know Tosin, the Fulham player, has shown some interest in tickets, so
Yeah,
that's a good
correct.
sign.
Yeah, I think he also has an account on Instagram showing off his shirts and cards, I think, or something.
Yeah, that's the one. I think it's
Yeah,
Tosin Collectibles on Instagram. Maybe we'll have to have him on
yeah.
one time and
Let's try.
ask him what he likes. Anyway, Lucas, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure there's so much for everyone out there to learn and listen to your stories. Is there any stories you want to leave us on before you go? Any cool pickups, favorable pickups, or anything like that? Just to end on a nice high
Um,
note.
Favorite pickups, I still remain at the Messi first goal. Yeah, maybe it's Argentina debut, but I already got like 4 or 5 of them, so it's not feeling special anymore.
Only.
That's something I really like. It's not a pickup, but I still have one here, but this one is not signed. But I did send. I tried it through the mail process, and I did send Eden Hazard's Belgium debut and his first goal for Belgium, and he returned them to me beautifully signed. So yeah,
Wow.
Hazard is a good guy.
Eden Hazard might be the most underrated footballer
Yeah, that's
ever.
probably because it's all his few lazy years at the end in Madrid.
Yeah, it was a shame. It tarnished his career, but the same thing again happened with Ronaldo with his stint at Man
Yeah,
United
true,
again.
true.
Anyway, we'll cut the stream there, but thank you so much,
Have a nice
Lucas.
evening, and thank you for inviting me.